Hey, happy Mardi Gras everyone. Hope you all are having a great week. It's Ernest from TripAstute. In this video, we're focusing on point valuations and why it's important to understand how much your points are worth when evaluating and using credit cards for travel. First off, I want to thank Jorge for sending over some Mardi Gras supplies from New Orleans. I really appreciate the love. Also, I want to give a shout out to Masoom for suggesting that I explore this topic. Today, I want to focus on a topic that seems to come up a lot during my credit card consultations. It's the issue of point valuations. I often get the question, how do I know how much a point is worth? And how do I know if I'm getting a good earning and redemption rate? So in this video, I want to take a step back and focus on some points and miles basics when it comes to understanding your point values. For those of you who've been doing this for a while, this might seem like basic information, but I'm hoping that you all can share your tips and knowledge with others who are new to the hobby and who can benefit from your experience. Before we jump in, if you're new here, welcome to our channel. TripAstute is a travel channel that is focused on sharing ways to make travel easier, affordable, and more enjoyable. Traveling can be stressful and expensive, so we're looking for ways to help you maximize your experience through travel tips, points and miles, and innovative gear. If that sounds interesting to you, please consider subscribing. A few weeks ago in my award wallet video, I mentioned how it can be confusing that a 1.5% card could earn me more points or value than a 2% card. Since it's also a reoccurring theme in a lot of my consultations, I figured I'd break down the topic of measuring points value into three parts. Number one, assessing the value of your points currency. Number two, understanding how it relates to your card's earning rate. And number three, determining the actual redemption rate for bookings. So let's start with assessing the value of your points currency. Point values are important to understand when you're collecting or investing efforts into building a collection of cards. The easiest way to get a baseline on how much a points currency is worth is to look at the Points Guy's monthly valuation. The Points Guy releases a list every month and does a great job of breaking down his team's perceived value for each points currency. They usually show the previous month's value and compares it to the current month and notes the reason why there might be a change in valuation. I've heard people criticize the Points Guy for their valuations, but I think it's a good starting point, pun intended. Obviously, your experience or situation may be different. For example, a lot of people get the most value per point when redeeming for business or first-class redemptions. For a lot of people, including myself, the focus is trying to squeeze more travel through economy class redemptions, which means that the target value per point is probably going to be lower than someone who travels in business or first class. So if that's you, you might be getting slightly less value than what the Points Guy lists. For example, the Points Guy values Chase Ultimate Reward points at 2 cents per point. When I tend to measure the value, I usually use 1.5 cents per point since it's a bit more conservative and it's the least amount that I would redeem since I can get that rate on the Chase Travel Portal with the Sapphire Reserve. Obviously, I always like to get the best redemption value that I can get, but I'm willing to redeem my points at a minimum of 1.5 cents per point. Also, while measuring the value of points is a quantitative judgment, there's also a qualitative or emotional component that factors into the value. For example, the Points Guy also values American Express membership reward points at 2 cents per point, though if I were given the choice between 50,000 membership rewards or ultimate reward points, which are both valued the same by the Points Guy, I would choose the ultimate reward points only because I feel like I have more options to redeem the points. You might feel completely different about it, which is totally valid. Though for my travel style, I value Chase points more, which means that it's a more valuable currency to me, which might not be captured by looking solely at the numbers. The same holds true for hotel and airline points. Assuming I could get a hotel or airline point at the same value as I could get a Chase Ultimate Reward point, I would opt for the Chase point. This is because there is value to me in having that extra flexibility to use the points in different ways. Again, that might not be factored into the actual numerical value, but it's something that I consider. Understanding how much a point is worth also plays into understanding the value of a welcome offer. For example, as of March 2019, the American Express Hilton Aspire card offers a welcome offer of 150,000 Hilton Honors points for spending 4,000 within the first 3 months of account opening. If you factor that Hilton points are worth 0.6 cents per point, then the offer is worth $900. Another popular card is the Chase Sapphire Preferred. Also, as of March 2019, it's offering a welcome offer of 50,000 Ultimate Reward points after spending 4,000 within the first 3 months of account opening. If we go with the Points Guide's valuation of 2 cents per point, you're looking at $1,000 worth of travel. If you use a more conservative 1.25 cents per point, then you're looking at $625, which I would argue is probably more realistic for the average traveler. So now that we understand how much a points currency is worth, you can now understand how much a card actually earns. A common example of how earning rates might be affected by the points value is the Chase Freedom Unlimited. I've talked to a few folks who have asked me why I use the Freedom Unlimited for a lot of my non-bonus spend when I could be getting 2% cash back with a Citi Double Cash or another card. My response is that even though the card earns 1.5x or 1.5% on all purchases, it's actually earning a rate of 2.25% since I value Chase Ultimate Reward points at 1.5 cents. Again, if I use the Points Guide's valuation of 2 cents per point, I would be looking at a 3% return. So even though the card has an earning rate of 1.5x or 1.5%, it has an adjusted earning rate of 2.25% when I factor my value for the points currency. The way I calculate the adjusted earning rate is by multiplying the card's earning rate with the points value. This gives me the adjusted rate. So here's another example. Suppose you have the Chase Sapphire Reserve or Preferred card and the World of Hyatt card, and you stay at a Hyatt hotel. Which card should you use? If we break down the points, we can see that the Hyatt card has a 4x bonus on purchases at all Hyatt hotels, while the Sapphire Reserve and Preferred card have a 3x or 2x bonus on travel purchases. If each Hyatt point is worth 1.7 cents according to the Points Guide, then you're earning about 6.8 cents by using your World of Hyatt card. If we use the Points Guide's value for Chase Ultimate Reward points, you'll see that it still makes more sense to use the World of Hyatt card since it earns more at Hyatt hotels and resorts. This can also work the other way. For example, a friend of mine was interested in earning Delta points. While getting a Delta branded card from American Express is not a bad idea, I suggested that it might be better for him to get an American Express membership rewards card like the Gold card that could earn points at an increased rate. For example, since my friend spends a lot on dining and groceries, he could earn a lot more membership reward points, which could then be transferred over to Delta. Even with the transfer fee, he would likely be able to get more points with an American Express charge card than a Delta card when it comes to his daily spend. I know that there are other variables that have to be weighed and considered, like qualifying miles and other card perks, but for simplicity's sake, don't assume that branded credit cards are always the best card for earning that specific points currency. Now that we know how to measure the adjusted earning rate of a card by factoring in the value of the points currency, how do I know how much value I'm getting in my redemption or booking? To calculate the value of a booking, I divide the cash value of the booking by the equivalent number of points needed. This gives me the per point value. Knowing this information can help inform whether I want to transfer points to a travel partner or book through a travel portal. For example, we recently booked a 5-night stay at the Hyatt Place Moab in Utah, since we'll be exploring some of the national parks in September. If I booked the 5-night stay using cash, it would cost me over $1,400 to stay at the hotel. However, it only costs 8,000 points to stay per night, so at 40,000 points total, I'm getting a per point value of 3.6 cents per point, which is great. You can use the same method for any type of booking where you can compare both the cash and points cost. In fact, we did a video a while back on when to use the Chase Travel Portal and why it's sometimes a better deal than transferring points to a travel partner. In that video, I basically used the same method to calculate whether I'm getting at least 1.5 cents per point. If not, it makes more sense for me to use the Chase Travel Portal to book the hotel or flight, since I can redeem Chase points at 1.5 cents because I have the Sapphire Reserve card. Definitely check out the video for more information on the process. Now, if you're watching this video and saying all this math is making my head spin, isn't there an easier way for people who don't want to spend time figuring all this stuff out? The answer is yes. There are a lot of flat rate travel reward cards out there that will give you a flat 2% back toward your travel expenses. Since these cards typically redeem at 1 cent per point, you only have to think about the front part of the equation. And actually, for most of these cards, you don't have to think about it at all since they earn a flat rate. These cards can be a great way to earn and redeem points toward travel without the hassle of trying to figure out best redemption rates. An example of such a card is the Barclaycard Arrival Plus. As of March 2019, there is a limited time welcome offer for 70,000 bonus points after spending 5,000 on purchases in the first 90 days. This offer is worth about $700 since each Barclaycard Arrival mile, which is not really a mile but really a point, is worth 1 cent per point. The card earns 2 points per dollar, so it's essentially a 2% cashback card that you can apply toward travel expenses. It does have an annual fee of $89, but it's waived the first year. These types of cards are great for those who want a simple way to earn and redeem points. While you can usually squeeze more value from a flexible points program like Chase's Ultimate Rewards or American Express's membership rewards, they do require a lot more time and effort to research redemption rates. In fact, even if you're heavily invested in a program, it's often worthwhile to have one of these flat rate cards to cover miscellaneous travel expenses. What do you all think about point values? I'd love to hear how much you think your favorite points currency is worth. Please share your thoughts and any additional tips in the comment section below. If you're interested in applying for a new credit card, we would love it if you used our link in the video description or on our website. It's an easy way to support our channel, especially if you found our content to be valuable and helpful. Also, if you need any help with determining what your next card should be, sign up for our free card consultation service. You'll basically fill out a questionnaire and schedule a 15-minute video or audio call with me to review your recommendation. If you enjoyed this video and found it useful, please give us a thumbs up and consider sharing the video with others. It really helps with growing our channel and our community. Until next time, travel safe and travel smart.